Good afternoon, Nigeria. It's 1 o'clock and welcome to our special broadcast, Osun Decides 2026. I am Chiwete Onyema, joined by Blessings Mosugu, as we bring you live coverage of the Osun State governorship election at this hour. The election, of course, enters its peak phase of continuous voting and accreditation across all 30 local government areas.
Most definitely, it's a beautiful afternoon and voting continues at full swing with voters rushing to join queues before the official closing time. Now, the BVAS devices are in use across polling units, and with just 1 hour and 30 minutes left before INEC stops new voters from joining the lines, the countdown to close has begun. Now, at 2:30 p.m., polls will officially close and ballot counting will commence immediately at the polling units. By 3 p.m., collation of results will begin at ward, LGA and state collation centers with uploads live to the INEC result viewing portal.
Also, of course, security concerns remain front and center. Earlier today, the Osun State Police Command confirmed the arrest of Abiola Ibrahim, an Accord lawmaker representing Irewole Isokan State constituency, alongside 146 suspected mercenaries. Now, panic, of course, has been reported in Modakeke, where policemen allegedly carted away voting materials. Now, this development has heightened tension in the area, and we'll, of course, be monitoring closely to see how INEC and security agencies respond.
And now we will be joined by some guests who will be helping us dissect this election. Joining us in the Lagos studio is political analyst Okiki Adeniran, alongside Segun Sopitan, the chairman of the Accountability, Candour and Transparency Network. We're also joined live in Abuja studio by Adebayo, the chairman of the Pan-Nigerian Civil Society and Opposition Alliance, to share his perspectives. Now, throughout this broadcast, we'll also cross over to our reporters who are stationed at polling units across Osun State, bringing you real-time updates from the ground as they have done for weeks now leading up to this election.
Of course, this is democracy in motion, so stay tuned as we track the pulse of Osun State, from, of course, the queues at polling units to the collation centers, and eventually the declaration of results tonight, or who knows, maybe by Sunday morning. This is Osun Decides 2026, and of course, the world is watching. I'm going to start off asking our guest, Mr. Adebayo, this question, of course. Of course, we can see that the queues remain long across Osun. What does this say about, of course, this particular election? Because we understand that a lot of things have been happening before, of course, counting down to this election. What would you say about Osun? First of all, I'd like to find out what exactly makes Osun so special, because there's been a lot of issues, chaos, of course, reported before this time.
Where all the attention, all the focus is on the state that is concerned. That is just what, and Osun State is the last state for this type of off-cycle election before the major election in 2027, and that is why the whole of attention is on Osun State. So that's what makes it so special. And other areas is because of the strength of the contenders, especially the two leading contenders of the incumbent governor and the APC candidate. That is what is making it so special. There's so much interest on Osun because, the incumbent wants to retain his seat. The APC wants to take over the state, because, the APC was there before His Excellency Governor Adeleke came on board. When the current minister of the marine and blue economy was governor, and Adeleke took over from him. So everybody, the interest there is massive, and even the people of Osun State are also very much interested in having, because of the interest in good governance, the interest of progress of the state. That is why you see there's so much focus on Osun now, especially being the only state in the 36 states of the federation having an off-cycle election. We had Ekiti the other time. That was the same way that there was sort of concentration on Ekiti, because it's an off-cycle election. Our off-cycle elections have always generated energy, focus, and multifarious, multifaceted interest, because it's off-cycle. All our attention is. It doesn't happen like that when you have a general elections, or if 3, 4, 5 states are having off-cycle election.
Okay, let me go to Okiki Adeniran now, if we have him with us. But if we don't, I will still say with you, Mark, off-cycle elections, like you said, are quite interesting. And if we zoom in on Osun State elections, we'll see that this will be the third time, if things don't go well, that we will have to have legal battles over these elections. And looking back at the history, one is tempted to wonder, is it necessary to always have to get to the legal side of it, as though the votes of the people does not count? And if we don't want history repeating itself, what can be done differently for this election, although it's almost too late now because it's about to close? But what is it that should be done differently for these elections that will not see us ending up again in court?
The most important factor in this respect is the fact that Nigeria must find a way to make sure that our elections are free, fair, and credible. Once that is guaranteed, and the only way to do that is the fact that all the political stakeholders must be able to come together and realize that we only have one country, and this is Nigeria. And we must ensure that there is peaceful transition from one political party and from one administration to the other. And that can be guaranteed by having a free, fair, credible, and peaceful election. I'm not happy about the pre-election violence that we have witnessed in Osun. It's almost unprecedented. The last time this type of situation was witnessed in Osun State was during the time that the former governor Rauf was to become governor that year. There was a lot of violence during, and post-election in Osun State. We pray that we never witness that kind of thing again. So, well, the downside here has been the violence, the pre-election violence that has been witnessed in Osun up until yesterday. Even we have been hearing, our people, our organization, our servers who are in the field have been feeding us back with some situations that, of course, I am happy that the kind of, the way, the optics in the violence prior to today was so high that people thought that the election today would be marred by massive violence, but we have not seen that. For now, it's just a couple of pockets of issues here and there. It has not, projected the kind of violent, expectations that people, that analysts thought were going to happen today. So it has been, it's mostly peaceful, except from one fracas here or there that we are witnessing in the, like in Modakeke and some, maybe one or two other places. So generally, I think for now, things are still going on in terms of, managing the situation. Violence, we must not allow. You fought with your thumb, not with the people's blood. That is what we must know. That violence, mass elections, violence, leads to voter apathy, massive voter apathy. And when there is voter apathy, there are 2.3 million registered voters in Osun State. At the end of the day, when the votes are being counted, hopefully we'll be able to get maybe up to half or 1/3 of that. So that will be the people that have gone out to go and vote. And where you have voter apathy is the area of the failure of the politicians and the political parties to be able to educate the people. We are very lazy in the area of, political education. It's not just for, it's not a job. It's not just a job for the INEC. It's not a job for the INEC. It's for political stakeholders, politicians, and political parties to invest massively in the political education of the people with regards to elections and the benefits that accrue from being a participatory, in a participatory democracy. Citizens cannot afford to be sleeping partners. We must be active partners in determining who becomes our governors, our presidents, our senators, our House of Reps, and the state houses of assembly. It's very important. If the people place it don't look, then that is where you have a situation of leadership imposition. And you cannot refuse to participate in the electoral process and begin to now complain about bad governance. No, you cannot. And the same goes for people who sell their votes, vote buying, vote selling. It has not been criminalized enough. It has not been punished enough. And that is why you are having this kind of... These are the things, these are the factors that rob us of the joy of participatory democracy. So I hope, I believe, I think we are improving, we are developing. Maybe sooner or later we will get there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo. You've made quite some valid points, talking about voter apathy, talking about the fact that we, the citizens, must be involved in the electoral process. But let me piggyback to the security conversations, the violence issues now. With the arrest of Abiola Ibrahim and the panic in Modakeke over policemen allegedly, cutting away voting materials, how do these, incidents like this shape the public trust, most importantly in INEC and as regards security agencies?
Well, the two incidents you have mentioned, I don't think INEC is involved in anything there that we can hold INEC responsible. If people decide to bastardize our electoral process by doing the kind of things that we saw that gentleman do, that was more or less captured while at it, it is, what happens is it robs the democracy of the election of its, authenticity. And that is why I am of the opinion, and I've been campaigning that, look, electoral offenses should be treated like political terrorism. And once you begin to do that, I think people probably will be careful not to be so, to act with impunity and just believe that you can go and gather people somewhere in the corner of your house and you want to do voting, you want to rig elections. It's very bad. At the Modakeke level, the report from our people on ground suggests that the police were responding to a situation, which I don't have all the facts now that they were responding to a situation, but as to the allegation of them cutting away voting materials, I do not have the facts about that. So, but people who really love this country must know that it is our responsibility as citizens to ensure that we allow for peace and we allow for a credible election by not, trying to find a way to scuttle the electoral processes by cutting corners, by gathering people. Now we are told that people are even being imported from adjoining states to enter the state to come and vote. Desperation. Well, it is desperation. It is power and political desperation that make people to want to scuttle the democratic processes in their own favor. And at the end of the day, if you, quote unquote, say you have won, when you yourself know that the processes by which you have emerged has not been transparent, has not been godly, has been anti-human, you know that your conscience will continue to condemn you for the rest of your life. And for those people who engage in bloodshed in the name of election, in the name of campaign, people who kill people, people who rob people, people who burn houses, people who burn properties, people who attack our electoral institutions to steal voting cards, you must know that not only that you get your judgment in this life, you also get your judgment in the life after. Because it is subhuman, it is anti-human and anti-social. For people, a democracy is an arrangement to make people have free choice to pick who will govern over them. So anybody that does anything that breaks our electoral laws, that breaks our constitution, that breaks our electoral act, in order to do ojoro to win an election, is acting against humanity. It's a crime against humanity.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, I'm glad that you brought up the issue of democracy, because most times we tend to get carried away by these electoral participation, and we focus more on the parties than the people. It is the governance of the people, after all. And talking about the voter turnout, we've seen over time, Osun State has a population of well over 4 million, and we have about 2.3 million registered voters. But unfortunately, Osun State is one of those states that in the last 2 decades has recorded massive decline in electoral practices when it comes to the citizens coming out to vote. And it ranges from a couple of reasons, like fear, like threats, like distrust, and even disenfranchisement, if we're to say the list. And several times we try to speculate, okay, will we see more turnout this time? But in the last 2 elections, it's been less than 50%, and nothing has really changed this time based on the reports that we've gathered from our correspondents. Why do you think that people seemingly do not want to come out? We've seen before now, leading to today, we've asked our correspondents, and one thing they keep saying is people are scared. There are threats everywhere, and it doesn't even look like they trust the system enough that it will work, because the last 2 times it ended up in court. What is the guarantee that their votes will count this time around? So where does democracy play in all of this?
Well, see, like I did say earlier, democracy is an arrangement to ensure that people have free choice to choose who will preside over their affairs. And you see, voter apathy has progressively eaten deep into our democracies. In 1999, you discovered that we had over around 90% of voter turnout. By 2003, it reduced to something like 75, 78. You know, by 2011, it had crashed to something like 50%. So by 2013, we were dancing around 35, 36%. So it continues. That is in terms of national average, in terms of national statistics that I'm giving you. I've been observing elections since the beginning of this democracy in 1999. So I know all these things. One of the reasons is when you talk about not trusting the system. Yes, the people really do not so much trust the system. And this is where INEC must ensure it is on top of its game to ensure that INEC and other election management bodies like the state electoral commissions too must ensure that they are able to display transparency, impartiality, and a fairness in our electoral processes. But they cannot do it alone. The politicians, for instance, you know that INEC does not buy votes. It is politicians that buy votes. INEC does not sell votes. It is the people that sell votes. INEC does not snatch ballot boxes. It is the politicians that sponsor talks to go and snatch ballot boxes. So it is a collective responsibility of the entirety of Nigerian citizens to ensure that this democracy not only survives, but thrives for the collective interest of all of us. So it doesn't. So people are afraid to go out to go and vote for, well, maybe for security reasons. We know that the optics in the security situation in Osun State prior to today, and that was sending the wrong signals. There are people who are outside, they are citizens of Osun State. Outside Osun State, I am a citizen of Osun State from Ilorin. There are citizens, but although I'm not registered to vote there. If I was registered to vote there, I would have been there right now. Now, there are people who are registered to vote in Osun because of the violence they have decided to stay in Lagos and Abuja and wherever they are. That is part of the contributing factor to the fact that we are having voter apathy. Another one is the fact that people are skeptical about the outcome of past elections, whereby they do not believe that the result is a reflection of the expression of the electoral mandate. That is one big factor in that area. Another thing is for economic reasons. You know, you will see practically there are people like I don't want to mention that town, that like what happened this morning. People didn't want to come out to come and vote, but some politicians took it upon themselves that come and vote, we will pay you. You understand? People who are registered to vote, they had to be more or less, will you say encouraged or what, to come out and vote. If you vote, you get 10,000. If you vote, you get 15,000. Politicians were going from house to house to go and encourage them to go and vote so that they can be paid. Now, that is wrong. That is the error of even we, the people, we, the electorate, that we must eschew. If they had to come and beg you to go out of just because they promised to pay you something, and you say even that your vote is invalid.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, we're going to take a pause on this conversation, and when we return, of course, we will continue. You're watching Osun Decides 2026. Be right back. Welcome back. Still Osun Decides as we place our focus on, of course, the citizens of Osun State determining who will be their next governor. My name is Chiwete, and of course, I'm still joined by Blessings Mosugu. Earlier, we had a conversation with Mr. Mark Adebayo, who joined us live from Abuja studio. But joining us live here in the studio right now is Mr. Okiki Adeniran. Okiki, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, we have Mr. Okiki Adeniran join us, and he is a political analyst. And I want us to take a look at the history, a bit of history, especially when it comes to the political parties. Now, we have analysts have called it as though we have 15 parties, but analysts have said that it's either a 3-race or right now a 2-race. The reason why analysts would say it's 3-race is because there is a third contender who seemingly has a stronghold on and being a deciding factor on whether Adeleke or the APC candidate wins the election. So can you talk to us about that history and how that can influence the elections today?
Well, I'll start by saying that the APC, the main contender, I would say, right, in this case, has been in Osun State for a long time. I'd stated at the particular time when I had an opportunity to be here that started from AD. AD was the party where we had Chief Bisa Konde, and then went into AC, and then ACN, and then we now have APC. Now, at the time when AD was in government, Chief Bisa Konde was in government, the people of Osun State at the time voted and, in fact, loved AD at that particular time. And not to sound partisan, I'll say that shortly after that time, when he came in and he started governing, it was 1999, between 1999 to 2003, there were issues. Basically, I think the civil servants, some of them were retrenched, and that caused a lot of issues. And that was when the PDP came in 2003 and took over from AD. And what happened was that the Osun State is a civil servant state. It's a state where you don't have a lot of companies, and your performance is governed by or is determined by how well you probably paid salaries, how well you took care of the civil servants, and down the line it was shown, right, that AD really didn't have the interest of the civil servant at heart, and then the PDP came in. Although I think they served 2 times, and after that time, AC or ACN came in. That was Ogbeni came in. And when he came in at that particular time, the same thing that happened in 1999, between 1999 to 2003, happened again, in sense that in this case, they were not retrenched. But what happened was salaries were cut into half. They were paying half salary. And typically, at the end of the 4 years, the present governor came and they wanted to take over from Ogbeni together with Oyetola. Now, at that particular time, he didn't win the election, and that was when he then contested and then won the election. Now, I've said all this so that I'll build a particular background, in the sense that the people of Osun State are basically, particular about who governs them and who takes care of them. Now, the background to all these parties, APC, Accord came in, right? There was no Accord in Osun State before, but based on the fact that PDP had, issues, and because of all the internal issues PDP had, the governor decided to move to Accord party, and then ADC, which we know that is now the present party. And ADC was, because Ogbeni Arogundade is the secretary of ADC. And Ogbeni Arogundade is also like a strong person in Osun State because he was former governor. And if you look at all these things, what you would see is that most of all these parties are being formed by, strong people, influential people in Osun State. And what we have right now, and what's the issue, the reason why we have a lot of insecurity and then people are fighting and they want to even, just get their own person there, is basically because these influential people, they have the will of the people, most of them. It's not about popularity, they're all popular. But at this particular point in time, what we are looking at is the welfare of the people, right? And I'll say I'm from Osun State, so I have a bit of history of how, things have unfolded. And I'll tell you for a fact that within the last three years, I have people in Osun State, and, I've been told that things are going on very well. And I feel that the reason why the opposition is probably pushing so much, which I feel that they should do, is that before you can win that kind of person, you need to go an extra mile. And that's what they are doing right now. So the background to all this, I feel, is that we have influential people all around. They have people in Osun State. Arogundade was former governor. Oyetola was former governor. Olaguson that joined APC just recently. That endorsed APC. was former governor. Adeleke has a lineage of, politicians. His brother was former governor of Osun State. He too has served as senator. He's now a governor, right? So you can see that Osun people, right, although it's not a city in that sense, but they are political conscious. Yeah. And that is one major thing that is really causing, someone wants to get there by force and make sure that, okay, I'm the one ruling Osun State at this particular point in time. I feel that, at the end of, probably by tomorrow, we'll know what has happened. People are still voting, although there's been a lot of, I've seen a bit of irregularity somewhere, and I've also heard that the BVAS, have been given issues, and I feel that presently, this is not the kind of issue we should be having. Right. I know we'll still get to that, but, basically...
Well, we'll definitely get to that.
Yeah.
Now, we see that, of course, the incumbent governor, Adeleke, moved from the PDP to the Accord Party. Yeah. And, of course, we see that the aspirant for the Allied People's Movement, that's Adebayo, has equally stepped down and said yes. His people should vote, his supporters should vote for the incumbent governor. We've also heard from the PDP who have said, since we're not able to get our own candidate on the ballot, yes. all our supporters should vote for Adeleke. Do you see all these things panning out to be some sort of advantage for the incumbent governor? Well,
I'll say that maybe not so much, a bit. And that, this will stem from what I said before. That from the PDP, as you look at the PDP, the way it is now, Oyinlola and the former SSG, the former governor and the former SSG to the government were in PDP, and they've thrown their weight behind APC candidates. Now, what we have in PDP might not have so much, might not have strong people. I mean, influential people that can influence the grassroots, because Osun State politics basically has to do with the grassroots people. It's not only popularity that, oh, I know this person. It has to do with someone who can, canvass for votes and ensure that, people are told in particular way to vote for a particular candidate. Now, PDP and APM, they are not popular party like that, as it were, in Osun State. The PDP used to be popular. The governor right now was in PDP, but when he moved to Accord, a lot of people from PDP moved with him. So if you're saying that, PDP and APM endorsing, I don't think it's not so much weight. It's not as serious, or it's not as serious like if, let's say, ADC decides to support the governor. That's a big one, because that means that Lanre Arogundade is now together with the Accord Party candidate. So I don't see it as something so weighty in that sense.
Okay. We just talked about the BVAS malfunction, and I want us to go to our studio guest in Abuja, who has been waiting, by the way, Mr. Mark Adebayo. We're sorry for keeping you waiting. Mr. Mark Adebayo is the chairman of the Pan-Nigerian Civil Society and Opposition Alliance, and we want to talk about the BVAS machines. Now, we have made claims to the fact that this time around, we do not expect any sort of malfunction from these machines. And in fact, INEC did confirm 4,427 BVAS devices, and this includes 3,763 machines and a total of 664 backup devices. At this point in time, I know, Mr. Adebayo, you did make mention of the fact that now is not the time to be talking about any irregularities, and I think that that same thing should apply to the devices that we have boasted about and made claims to, I mean, obviously not perfection, but at least with 664 backups, I don't think that it should even be a conversation about malfunctioning for this election. Please share your thoughts.
Well, I do not believe that the BVAS will be having issues, so any significant level of issues now. It should be something that will be isolated in isolated cases. It should not be something that is rampant. It's not be something that, I believe that INEC should, because the way what we saw in the Okiki State was quite encouraging. But, that just in the skeletal places that we had that kind of issue. I do not believe that we should be having that kind of issue in a significant level, percentage, at this level. The INEC should have, graduated to the level of manageable, capacity in terms of how these BVAS machines function. We shouldn't be having that kind of, because there's a lot of hope in the BVAS machine that it would curb electoral malpractices and electoral malfeasance. So if we are hearing reports of, I'm trying to check, because I'm monitoring, I'm getting reports from our people who are on the field in Osun State to know. I do not know at this point the level at which the BVAS are malfunctioning, but it will not be good for the electoral process if on a significant scale the BVAS machines are malfunctioning. It will not be good. That we cannot give an excuse about network. We cannot give an excuse about the quality of the BVAS, because I have seen INEC demonstrate some of these things, and you can see how powerful and efficient they are. So when it has come for those machines to function and to help our elections, we don't want to hear this issue about malfunctioning or not malfunctioning. Of course, we will see. I believe very soon reports will start coming in about what is transpiring in the Osun State with regards to the performances of the BVAS machine. But we must, INEC must be on top of its game on today's election. It's very important for the BVAS machine and the operators to ensure that these things function very well. We are told that we have thousands of backups if any of the machines is malfunctioning. So INEC knows that all eyes on the commission to be able to deliver well. I have a level of confidence, even in their own willingness to ensure that they perform very well for this election, because it is like more or less like a test case. It's like a test run for the 2027 general election, which is massive. We have presidential, we have senatorial, we have governorship, and we have everything. That one involves the whole of Nigeria. So they need to prove a point. They have points to prove that, because people will now say, oh, if they cannot manage a state off-cycle election, how should we trust them to be able to manage elections for the entirety of the country? So they have a point to prove, and I know that the chairman, Professor Amukiton, will want to prove a point that is not only capable, but that is competent to be able to manage our electoral processes. Whatsoever is going to take, whatsoever that must be done to ensure that the BVAS machines are operating optimally must be done, must be put into it to ensure that we don't have any glitches, we don't have any malfunctioning, we don't have difficulties in recognizing faces of genuine voters, on this thing. Because a lot depends on how we are able to get our machines to function. Technology must be able to function very well for our electoral processes to get to its desired level.
My next question is, of course, to you, Mr. Adeniran, here in the studio, and it has to do with, of course, just picking up from what he said as regards how important this election is to INEC, that this is the very last off-cycle election we're going to be having before we have the general elections. In your own view, looking at since when we had Joshua Mokpito emerge as the INEC chairman, in your own, what's your own assessment as for INEC, and do you think they are well, fully ready for what to expect in January 2027?
Yeah, sincerely speaking, I don't think they are fully ready. And I'm saying this because from the look of things, and if I'm going to judge by what has been happening today and the reports we've been getting, especially because based on the BVAS, one, this is not the first election we'll be using this machine. I believe that by now we should have mastered the act of using it and ensuring that probably before the election, we try to do a test run of all the machines so that we don't have this kind of issue. Right now, I think I've seen and I've been able to, from what we have online reports, that some of these BVAS machines were malfunctioning. Some could not even capture. People had to wait. They had to, call for a backup. I feel that the kind of election we have right now, we should have backup plan in the sense that if one is not working, if we have to use two for a polling unit, we should have extra like 2 or 3 waiting just in case those main ones are not working, so that we don't keep people waiting. Now, people came to vote. They can't cast their votes. They are discouraged. Some people walk away and then they will go. Unless for some people, they're just probably very serious about the fact that they want to vote. That's a part. Again, I see that because he said when he was talking, I don't know his name, but Mr. Adebayo said when he was talking that this didn't happen in Okiki State. Why is it happening in Osun State now? Like I said, I don't want to sound partisan, but my own thinking and the way it's coming to me is that there's been a lot of, discussions about insecurity and other things. We haven't heard that today. There's been a lot of, it's been playing low, things are, doing well. We've not heard about somebody chasing anybody as much as, we thought was going to happen. But this is another part, and I feel that we need to pay attention to this. Why are the BVAS not working? The way they are not, I'm so sure that even the fact that they are not working, INEC will still count the votes and will still, release a particular result. Now, we should look at it and, think about what will happen. Certain persons will be able to vote. Some will be disenfranchised. They will not be able to vote. There's nothing we can do about that. Oh, it was a malfunction. Nothing we can do about that. And it means that if there will be another step, certain, I don't know what is happening in some other quarters, but the way it's coming to me is that, do we have another plan somewhere to, probably upturn the what do you call it, the results we're expecting, or maybe whatever anybody wants to do? What is really happening? If we're able to do it very well in Ekiti, why not in Osun State? Why can't we have the BVAS working in Osun State? So it calls for an answer that let's INEC look at this. You were able to conduct an election somewhere, right, where we have the ruling party, and it worked well. Right now, the ruling party is trying to take a particular place, and you know that the will of people is towards a particular candidate, and the BVAS are not working. And the people are saying that, we've gotten to the polling votes, we cannot vote, BVAS are not working, and nothing is happening to that. So it calls for a quest for an answer that what is really happening? Do we take it as it's a ploy to get a particular candidate out of the race and get another person in the game? So those are the questions, and I feel that it is not now. Just like, we know if we really want a system to work, it will work. We have spent a lot of money on these things. Why are they not working? By now, I believe that there should be proper communication from the INEC headquarters addressing this issue. This is what is happening. This is what we are trying to do about it. But nothing has been said. People are just there waiting. I saw a particular old man, a 50-year-old man, and I was saying that, he came. They told him to go and eat, that he should come back. That he's back again now. The BVAS is still not picking his face, and nothing is happening. It's malfunctioning. So you can be so sure, even if he wants to vote, and this goes to one thing, that our government should think about this. We need to allow the will of the people to be. It is not, you don't have to force people into a particular position. If the people are clamoring for a particular person to be their leader, let it be. There's no need for you to, dissuade the will of the people and ensure that it is what you want. I know it's politics. Politics, it's a game of chance and then numbers and everything. But if the people are saying we want this person to govern us, let them. You are going to govern the people. You need the power. You want to sit at a particular place to govern the people. Then let their will take you there, not your own will, trying to enforce your own will. So that's why I think that by this time, the BVAS should not be what we are even discussing about. What we should be discussing is people coming out to vote. We've heard that we had like 2-point-something million voters and 1.9 or so took their. We should be concerned about PVCs. We should be concerned about how many people came out to vote, not that people came out in this number and then you cannot vote. It's very sad.
Well, just as we have done on this show with, every other segment of this election, we also want to put this side by side with the upcoming elections of 2027. Still talking about the BVAS malfunctioning at this time. We've had protests to this effect even before now, where people have been asking for a free, fair and credible elections. And one of the ways that will translate or reflect is if the results are uploaded in real time without hitches and glitches. And one of the statements that was made by the new INEC chairman was that they cannot 100% guarantee, which is, it's okay because even in, bigger societies and in the Western world, you cannot 100% guarantee that there will be no hitch. Right. But it almost seemed as though it was a disingenuous statement, as though he was prepared to say that almost 50% of the time we will not get it because, the network may not be good. We're heavily reliant on this thing malfunctioning, and this is the reason why it was created in the first place, to make sure that there is minimal errors. So how will this then translate to the 2027 elections? If we have, this is not even a large-scale election. It's large in Osun Osun State, state-wise, but talking about the federal elections now, if we're having these issues, how do we then mitigate the effect of this same malfunction on the 2027 elections? Because now it's as though we are now anticipating a malfunction. On a smaller scale, it's malfunctioning this much. Imagine what happens on a larger scale. And it's not helping that we keep guaranteeing people that it would almost always fail.
You know, as Nigerians, one thing that we do and one thing that our leaders do that is actually not right, and it's not the proper way to do things, is to be complacent. We feel that, oh, I've tried my best and I can't do it, I can't do more than this. The truth about it is that we can have, even if we feel that as Nigerians we cannot manage it, we can have people come into the country to help us manage that. We can have a particular, maybe, you know, bring in expatriates to say, okay, we're having an election at this particular time. Help us do this. We want to have a real-time, you know, results, and we will do. But the fact about it is that our politicians do not want this. You know, it's a game of, like I said, game of numbers. Before now, we didn't have BVAS. It was just, you know, you thumbprint and then you drop it in the box and somebody marks your name. But right now, the only way to rig is to ensure that people don't come and vote. So by the time the BVAS are not working, by the time, you know, a particular number of people cannot vote at a particular time, it's a free way for them to rig the election. And that is what is happening now. And that's what, you know, the call I'm trying to make, that the civil society should not, you know, sleep on this. The Amnesty International should not sleep on this. Why are the BVAS not working? It's a precursor, you know, to us saying that a particular candidate will win this election. Plainly, and I'm not mentioning anybody, but I'm just saying that if the BVAS are not working, just like I've said, we can get these things to work. We have, you know, we brought these things in, we put them in, we put the, what do you call it, the fact that we can use it in our electoral act.
And we had enough time.
Enough time, you know. So why are they not working? So for 2027, you can be sure that even if we discuss it from today till that time, we'll still have issues like glitches, I mean, during the election. And what are we going to hear? Oh, we can't have 100%. And that is one thing I feel that we need to work on. Is it that we want to be fair? We want free and fair election, credible election. Now, nobody is fighting in Osun State. Nobody's carrying gun and shooting anybody, just like, you know, we thought was going to happen. But this is another way. So this picture will probably be, you know, used again, produced again, 2027, when we have elections. Such a way that, oh, BVAS is not working here, oh, it's not working there. And then they will count the number of people that were able to vote. And that's all. Nobody's going to come and, you know, carry the ballot box and say, oh, you're not going to vote. That's, in fact, if you do that, it will even mar the election and, you know, by the time you get to court, a lot of other things. But this is a better way to do things, to, you know, to turn the election. So I'll say that 2027 is coming, you know. I feel that right now, what we should be doing, right, the civil society, Amnesty, and citizens, we should be clamoring for a change. The INEC chairman should be asked questions. How do you want this thing to be done? Do we need to get expatriates to come and help you? If there's a need for that, why not bring them in? Even if it's for just the presidential election or just to have a test run and see how this thing can work, because I know it can work. We have internet in virtually everywhere. We can, you know, transmit immediately. We can even get internet to work in those places. So why are we having it this way? So believe you me, by 2027, we'll have a repeat of this. Let's just keep looking at it. We'll have a repeat of this because plainly nobody will want to step forward to say, well, let me change things. It happened in, I think it's like a fourth time, I don't know. You're using BVAS. We've been using BVAS for some time. And right now, we still cannot have a clean and clear way of using it. So I don't want to say I'm discouraged or I feel bad about it, but I feel that it is what we can work on, what the government can work on. If the government wants to work, it will happen.
And it seems to be the most convenient excuse because you almost always cannot fault
You can't fault it.
glitches.
You cannot.
Which is
Even
sad.
if you take it to court to say, oh, my lord, say it was a malfunction, technical glitch. So,
do you think it's a case of us needing to invest more in our technology at this point in time? Is that what we need?
Correct. That is what I'm saying. You know, we even have young people in Nigeria. We have a lot of tech guys in Nigeria. I'm so sure that even some that are out of the country, just give them this thing. Oh, this is the problem we have. What can we do about it? Let them bring the young guys. Let them look at the system. So it will be something simple that they have to do. And then the system will be cleared and things will work properly. But, just like I said, as well in Nigeria, we are very, because we don't want something to work, we rather go the other way and hide on that, oh, it's just this, we can't do anything, we are helpless about it. But we are not. We have people that can do it. We have resources to, to use, but we rather use those resources for some other things and, fail the citizens. And, I always say this, and I tell people around me that our leaders don't, they don't, in normal parlance, they don't rate the citizens. They always feel like, oh, what would they do, even if we say it's not working? For example, if and I'm not, trying to call for anything. If there's some people, at this particular time, now that we have noticed this thing, let's start clamoring right now. Oh, this is what we want. We have noticed that this has been happening over and over and over again. What can we do? We are demanding on the government to do certain things, and the INEC chairman to do that which we feel like we're saying now. Bring in the tech guys. Let them look at the system. Let them see what they can do about it and prefer those solutions. Right. So that's what I think.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Mark Adebayo, who is in the studios in Abuja. And we want to talk about, now we know that this election will not only decide who leads Osun State today, it would also be a heavy determinant for translating into the influence that the ruling party, and I'm talking about on the federal level, has, which is the president of Nigeria. Now, Osun is particularly significant because it sits in the southwest, and we know that the southwest is President Bola Tinubu's traditional political stronghold. So the results today may not necessarily predict who wins the 2027 presidential election, but it could provide an early indication on whether Tinubu's political influence in the southwest continues to translate into vote. What would you say about that?
Yeah. Well, the president is a critical factor in what happens in the political calculation of the southwest. He is a critical factor. He's president of Nigeria. He's also from the southwest. Some say he's even from Osun State because his cousin is there, and so it's very, very significant for him. But you see, before I go to that, I want us to discuss, okay, why do our BVAS fail? If we do not have these network issues, every nook and cranny of Nigeria now has a good network. But you see, biometric recognition failures happen due to multifarious factors like hardware limitations. Because we have to check the qualities of the BVAS machines, because we have about 3 or 4 qualities. So if you go for a budget-friendly BVAS, the hardware sensors will not be able to, they will struggle to process the facial recognition of the people. Aside from the other factors of sweaty, oily faces or dirty or faded thumbprints. So what are the qualities of these BVAS machines that we have brought in? Because like I said, you see that we went for budget-friendly ones because we cannot blame the failures on network. We can't just be saying, BVAS failed, there is a glitch, INEC do this, do that. What are the factors? Why do these BVAS machines, why do they fail? What are the qualities of the ones that we have that have been imported into Nigeria? We have to understand that. Well, in terms of the outcome of the election, I'm sure that the president will be very much interested to make sure that his party in the APC, he will be much interested to want his party to win that election, because it is a political statement, which has electoral significance in terms of 2027 for him from the southwest, because the president, you remember that he didn't win Lagos in the last presidential election. So it's something that he would not want to repeat itself either in Lagos or anywhere in the southwest, because that is a primary political base. And if he starts losing elections in the southwest, it will be seen as a sign of weaknesses or his waning political influence in the southwest. So, he will have interest for the elections to come the way of his party, but it is the people, the electorate in Osun State, who will determine the outcome of the election, using their constitutional right of voting the their preferred candidate. If you look at the efforts that the APC has put into that election, you will know that they are not playing, they are not joking. That you see that the kind of massive mobilization they have undertaken in the last few weeks has been very, very significant. Yes, the incumbent has also done a lot, especially in the grassroots level. You can see that in terms of campaigns, in terms of mobilization, in terms of
Mr. Adebayo, permit me to butt in there, but we've just been informed now that we have yet another guest join us. He's the head of Department of Voter Education and Publicity, Osun State, Mr. Ario Rufus. Mr. Rufus, thank you so much for joining us on Osun Decides right here on News Central. I just want to ask you real quick, where are we as regards voter participation this year, as regards the elections? In 2022, we had about 1.9 registered voters, and at the end of the day, about 800,000 above that, a little bit above that, were the ones who turned out to vote. This time around, in 2022, we have about 2.3 million registered voters, 1.9 million citizens have picked up their PVC, but we're hoping we'll have a larger turnout this year. But I want to know exactly what you've done so far as regards educating voters to actually come out, because we talked about that just a minute ago as regards voter apathy. How can we change the story and see that the number of registered voters we have of course, during INEC's registration are the same number of people who come out on election day?
Okay, yes, that's what I'm saying. That at grassroots level, we have have a kind of mobilization of women groups, people living with disability, youth organization, and even apart from that, we will engage the CSOs, the FDOs, and on the grassroots mobilization at local government level and all the LGA in Osun State. And I believe the effect of things will be seen in the election today.
Okay, Mr. Rufus, still talking about the BVAS malfunctioning. I mean, this is supposed to be a democratic process, and it involves the people because it's meant for the people. How do you think that this would affect the voting and democracy in general?
Is it BVAS malfunctioning? Yeah. I mean, I've been in the situation room all this while. There are few cases, and the few cases are being resolved at any time.
All right, Mr. Rufus, we will definitely come back to you to find out, especially in terms of education of voters and basically how this can, in general, affect the democratic process. But in the meantime, I want us to come back to Mr. Okiki Adeniran. Mr. Mark Adebayo was speaking about something, but very quickly, I want us to talk about the party strength. Now, earlier, I talked about the three strongest parties. Yes, of course, we have the others, the Action Alliance, we have the AAC, the New Nigeria. But looking at some of these strongest parties, I would start off with Ademola Adeleke of the Accord Party. He won the 2022 governorship election PDP platform. Now he's on the Accord Party platform. It means that he has garnered supporters from PDP, at least some supporters from the PDP, which might give him a bit of strength or leverage. He's also campaigning on the strength of incumbency, and we've seen over time, especially in this country, that the power of incumbency is very strong. Once you've been able to, especially, I mean, if you're lucky enough to have performed well, people tend to just gear towards the people that they're used to. They've seen, even if you don't perform ultimately, when they see that there's a little bit of performance from you and you do not ultimately disappoint, they tend to move towards you. So there is also the power of incumbency that is working in his favor. In addition to the political structure, one thing that you know about Ademola Adeleke is that he has put a lot of structures in place, and we can boast about that. We can't even take that from him. Record office as well. Now, looking at Oyebamiji, on the other hand, he's another strong contender because he's the candidate of the All Progressives Congress. We know that that is Nigeria's ruling party. He's a former Osun State Commissioner for Finance. He has the backing of the federal ruling party, while President Bola Tinubu's intervention and political influence have strengthened the APC's push as well. Now, Najim Folashayo Salam, who is the ADC candidate, He's a former Speaker of the Osun State House of Assembly, which means he has a legislative backing as well. And he has the backing of the former Osun Governor, Rauf Aregbesola. So looking at the strengths that they have, where would we say that this will place them on the pedestal? Who has the strongest in terms of, factors working in their favor? Not necessarily predicting who wins now, but looking at the strengths. They have three unique areas of strength. So who has the strongest area of strength that might tend to work in their favor for these elections?
Well, I believe the incumbent governor has like the strongest, and I'm saying this because
of the incumbency.
Yes. Now he has opportunity to talk to people. He's done a lot of things, projects, and he's able to show himself.
Bragging rights, basically.
Yes, the other party, the APC, Oyebanji was in government. I think was he said Commissioner for Finance.
Yes, Finance.
Yes, at the time. And you agree with me that as a commissioner, you probably do not have that large opportunity to even address the people or talk to people, probably just doing your own ministry work. The only thing you probably will be leveraging on at this particular time is the fact that the federal might won, and also the fact that the former governor is right behind him. Those two things, will actually help him. Then he thought Najim Salam was the Speaker of the House of Assembly. And that was, that should be like 8 years ago or thereabouts. And during those periods, I'd said that the Osun people at this particular time, they had it, I would say, a bit rough, in the sense that salaries were not being paid, other things, they had other issues. And, for him, he has Aregbesola, behind him. Now, I'll still place Accord Party as number one because, like you said, he has the bragging rights. He has been able to convince people, even better than when he was coming in at the first time, right? Before that time, he had contested and he didn't win. And then again, he had to, contest again. And I feel that right now, if the election is free and fair and people are allowed to vote, it should have, at least the highest in that sense, because he has been able to, convince people that, yes, better than I even did the first time, I will do another.
Okay, sorry, please hold that thought, because I also have some questions regarding accountability, because some people would also hold that against him, but we'll talk about that when we come back.
All right.
All right, now this segment has given us deep insight into voter enthusiasm, the performance of the BVAS, of course, and the security concerns shaping today's elections. Democracy is truly in motion here in Osun State, and we'll take a short break now, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll continue the coverage of the Osun elections. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to another hour of our special coverage of Osun Decides 2026. And in this segment, the focus shifts to the perspectives of election observers as well as the stakeholders.
Joining us from Osun, of course, is right now we have Professor Jelili, who is a development scholar and Nigerian in diaspora observer. And also joining us is Kayode Babayomi, who is the AAC chairman in Oyo State, who's serving as an election observer. But before we have a conversation with these two new guests who just joined us, Blessings, you're going to ask Mr. Rufus a question.
All right, we still have Mr. Ario Rufus, who's the head of Department Voter Education and Publicity, Osun State. And before the break, we tried to get a feel of Mr. Rufus's opinions or ideas regarding the BVAS malfunctioning and generally how this affects democracy, seen as his field is voter education. I mean, it's one thing for the people to know what to do. It's another for the system to work against them. So I want to know how this, in turn, affects democracy in general. Mr. Rufus, Ario Rufus, if you can still hear us, please just lend your thoughts on that very quickly.
Regarding the BVAS malfunctioning, regarding this election going on, we have only reported few cases, and we have been attended to. And as we speak now, everything is working well as far as the BVAS is concerned in Osun State.
So are you saying in the whole of the state there's no malfunctioning or none that you have heard of, or at least in the region where you are at?
There are few cases reported, which have also been attended to immediately, as they are reported. I mean, because of maybe as your battery or or manhandling by the personnel.
Okay, Mr. Rufus Aria, before we let you go, can you speak to the voter turnout very quickly? I mean, I don't think that people anticipated much from this elections because in the last 2 elections, we've had less than 50% of voter turnout. How do we make sure that this is the last time that we have such little numbers, especially compared to the number of registered voters and the citizens in general in Osun State?
There were a lot of sensitization at the grassroots level, various levels before this election. And reports we are hearing show that a lot of people are coming up for the election. So the impact of the sensitization is same. They are going to be same in this election.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ario Rufus, the head of Department of Voter Education and Publicity, Osun State. Okay, we'll come back to the guests that we have in the studio. Chiwete.
Let's move over now to Professor Adebiyi, Professor Jelili Adebiyi, who joins us, of course, virtually. Professor Adebiyi, now looking at the Osun gubernatorial election from an international perspective, how do you think today's election, compare with global standards of, most importantly, transparency and accountability?
Yeah, thank you so much. And a little bit of clarification there. I'm actually from Osun State. I'm a prince from Ire in Osun State. And so this election in Osun State is very personal to me. And somebody who has his eyes on the governorship of the state at some point in time, possibly in 2021 or thereabout, I've been very conversant with the development in the state. When it comes to the transparency of the electoral process, it's not a decision we can make on the day of the election. There are things that have happened prior to the election that suggest that all the stakeholders, the major stakeholders, the candidate of the APC, the candidate of the Accord Party, and the candidate of the ADC, that they have their own plans in one way or the other to skew the electoral process in their own favor. And, I've heard a lot of people saying APC is using the federal power. I don't think so. I'm a very, very critical person when it comes to the leadership of the APC at the federal level in terms of the personality of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In fairness to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has allowed the process to play out. And the reason is this. Bola Ahmed Tinubu actually wanted the incumbent in Osun State to join his political party. But his younger brother, in person of Alhaji Oyetola, and other stakeholders within the party, they felt that they can actually prosecute this election without Governor Adeleke joining them. So they've been doing all they could do in order for them to win that election on their own. So the president is not directly involved in Osun elections. And the state is also in control of some important institutions, state institutions. And what that means is that while the APC leader in the state have been manipulating some of the federal institutions, the leadership of the state has also been manipulating some of the state institutions. The only candidate that doesn't have any institution that can be manipulated to skew the election in their favor is the candidate of the ADC. So when it comes to that, both the PDP and the PDP and their core party can be said to have been trying to ensure that some elements of secrecy is imbued into the process to ensure that they carry the day. And they have their rigging plans, We have friends on the three sides of the major political party. We understand what is happening, the processes of trying to secure the PVC, because that's been the style in this election. And it's a lot of vote buying. It's a lot of vote buying, We've been communicating with folks, Sometimes people report 10,000, 15,000. That is what they know. The votes are going for beyond that. And they are using a much more sophisticated approach to buy votes, especially in their strongholds. Especially in their stronghold. And the other thing is the issue of our electoral observers. Some of our friends that are electoral observers, they are diehard members of different political parties, of these same political parties. You only know them when you know them. You only know them when you have conversation with them. But when they go out there and they present themselves as electoral observer, that is just giving the process. So that's an element of secrecy there. And why have they elected to go this route? The game plan is very simple. You don't go to somebody else's stronghold to rig election. That is an invitation to anarchy. You actually prosecute the process of rigging election in your stronghold. And one of the ways you can actually do this successfully is by taking over the control of who are the electoral observers in a particular place. So the major electoral observers in many of their strongholds are actually their own people. And that makes it possible for them to go about the process of ensuring that they get in a number of votes crookedly into the system so that it can serve to their own advantage. So there's a lot of element of that. And when you look at the number of turnout, which has been super impressive, we expect this to happen, not because the people are really excited about the outcomes of this election. The main reason is that people have been paid, they've been financially mobilized to come out and vote. Like in Ede, for example, where I live for more than 15 years, many people often think that I'm from Ede. I'm not from Ede. You know, my father was a military man, and I spent a significant part of my formative years together with my parents in Ede, and majority of the people that are living in poverty. I'm telling you this, the number one source of employment currently in Ede is politics. Why? Because the new generation of wealthy people in Ede, they are not creating jobs for the people. We used to have the Alhaji Saka Salami. We used to have the likes of Alhaji Ayofe. We used to have the likes of Alhaji Ajadi. We used to have the likes of Alhaji Ibiyemi. All of these were entrepreneurs who created, even Alhaji SK Bakari, SB Bakari. These were all giants who created entrepreneurial opportunities that employed the rank and files in Ede. But the new generation of millionaires and billionaires in town, the likes of the Adelikes, they've done little in this direction. So politics now became a thing of survival for the majority of the people in Ede. So for them, these 4 years, the next 4 years is very, very important for them. And the main reason is because some of them, they've been smuggled into the system, working in some casual capacity, benefiting from contract of all sorts. For them, it means survival. And that is why they are mobilizing in mass, ensuring that Ede still continues to be at the helms of affairs for the next 4 years. So that's well understood. When you go into the other stronghold of certain political parties too, you begin to see that, okay, we've lost out of power in the last 4 years, and we need to come back to power. And what that means is that they also want to have their own fair share of the cake. So it's not necessarily about, being in government, changing the situation of the people of Osun State, which is abysmal. Osun State is in a terrible, terrible, terrible shape when it comes to the livelihood condition of the people, especially when you go to rural towns like Ure. When you go to places like Ikiru, the situation is terrible. When you go to many places in Egbedere local government, you'll be seeing, you move around, you see naked poverty all over the place. Places where things are a little bit better include, cosmopolitan areas like Osogbo. So the situation in Osun State, when it comes to the live condition of the people, is abysmal. And what that means is that when you mess around with 20,000, with 25,000, you can actually get a lot of people coming out to vote massively. So that is also playing out. Another major thing that is playing out in Osun State, some people felt that they have to give back, especially some sections of the working class in Osun State, the civil servant. Osun State is popularly said to be, a state of the civil servants, because a good number of the people who are working in Osun State, who are employed, they are of the civil services structure. Some of them felt, well, it's been a little bit good for them in terms of salary, not in terms of their living condition or welfare. And they felt they have to self-mobilize in order for the incumbent to be returned. But there's also a breakout within this group as well. They are like, we got to vote Adeleke out. And that's another thing that is happening. And some people also felt, the decision of Adeleke, the idealization of development of initiative under Adeleke, which is a big issue. And, for some of us who have experience, who were part of some of the conversations at the back end, happening when Adeleke won the election. And for the record, I never supported him when he went in for the first time. I was opposed to him for reasons based on certain principles. But yet, boys who work for him, they are my good friend. We had a lot of conversation. And one of the things they said is that he was going to give a lot of attention to Ede during the first term. Why? They had an experience during the time of Governor Sherubamu. When Sherubamu was campaigning, I lived very close to the neighborhood of their delegates as a young man. I lived very close to their neighborhood. He didn't have the opportunity. Very lovely man, Governor Adeleke, very, very lovely man, handsome. And honors me, honestly, humble, super, super humble. And people really love him. We love him growing up as kids. And so when he was campaigning and the whole town was in support of Governor Adeleke, but he didn't really last long in that office because they were booted out. So Ede felt cheated out. And they felt that, okay, with the time of Governor Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke, Demola Adeleke, that they have to take care of Ede first. And that was why he concentrated a lot of effort in his first time on Ede, because we're not too sure of the second term. And and that's another thing. Some places in Osun State, they really felt, marginalized.
Okay, Professor Jelili, apologies to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. I want us to also delve into a very important aspect of this election, which is security. Thank you so much. And fascinating to know that you are actually a prince from Osun State, and we have been enjoying the history. Very quickly, we'll be having Kayode Babayomi, AAC chairman in Oyo State, who is an election observer and will be telling us more about the elections as he has observed. But I want us to go to Mr. Mark Adebayo, who is in Abuja, to talk about the issue of security, which is one other very pertinent issue regarding this Osun election. Now, thankfully, things did not really turn out the way we have anticipated, and that's a good one because, I remember Mr. Adeniran here saying that thankfully there were no guns blazing and all of that. But Mr. Adebayo, we have seen, leading up to these elections, threats flying around. We hear that over 40 lives were lost because of Osun State elections, not even the federal election. So, Mr. Adebayo, can you speak to security very quickly regarding elections in general?
With regard to security on this election, I think we should give some acknowledgement to the response of the various security agencies, the police, the civil defense, the army, and our intelligence agencies. I think the build-up to this election, they saw the bloodshed, they saw the crisis, they saw all the violence, and prepared for today. That's why you have thousands of policemen, thousands of civil defense, hundreds of soldiers in the streets of. I think that's a kind of it kind of discourages people who had the intention of creating crisis, violence today. So that's why they are seated where they are. Because this election is highly competitive. You see that whoever is going to emerge winner is going to win by, say, some kind of razor margin. It's going to be very, very close. And people call it 3-horse race, I call it 2-horse race, because the third leg of this race, which is ADC, will help either Ambo or the incumbent to win the election. The three of them are from the west senatorial district of the state. Ikire, Ede, and Ijibo. So they are from there. You see, the APC candidate and the incumbent governor, I believe the race is between them. And the man from Ejigbo, the ADC candidate, is fault. What he's going to get is going to split what's supposed to have gone to either of these two. So he will be there. That third leg ADC is going to help either of these two to win. You will see that the APC has concentrated massively in the Osun Central, which is a swing senatorial district that is going to determine most likely going to determine the outcome of this election, not reducing the importance of Ijesha, Obokun, and other areas. You understand? So that is it, and that is why you see that the APC has concentrated a lot of campaign in those areas at grassroots level, at the central area, and the rest of that. The power of incumbency of the current governor, as significant, as good as it is to assist him, is already counterbalanced by the federal might that is going to come to bear to support the APC candidates to win. And
all right, Mr. Adebayo, permit me to butt in here, but I've just been informed that we now have Babayomi Kayode, who is the AAC chairman in Oyo State. Mr. Babayomi, if you can hear me clearly, thank you so much for joining us on Osun Decides.
Thank you so much for having me this afternoon. I'm live here at Ejigbo.
Yes.
Where the gubernatorial candidate of our party and other party candidates were voting and members of the public. With what I've seen so far, I can say that the election here has been peaceful so far, not until we had gunshots where the ADC candidates were voting. And at the same time, with the crowds that I can see here, I've been able to move from one polling unit to the other. I can see that the numbers of machines deployed by INEC is limited to the numbers of people that are on ground to vote. And I can assure you, if the crowd continues like this, because people are still coming out, people are coming out steadily to ensure that they get votes. But at the same time, the machine is not enough. And the machines are very, very slow. That before they can accredit a voter, it takes like 5, 6, 10 minutes before the machine can recognize that very card. And this has really caused a setback, for major polling units in Ejigbo here. But at the same time, the police are on ground, the civil defense are on ground. But it's so sad that the army, the soldiers are everywhere. You can't walk 10 meters within Ejigbo that you won't find a soldier. And this is very, very sad that if you look at the atmosphere, it was just as if we are starting another civil war, which is not supposed to be so. It is another way. I feel it's another way of voters. I feel like it's another vote. But so far, so good. People are out. In fact, very, very huge crowds. Every of the polling units. Even though go to the villages nearby, you can see that people are really out, to vote at the same time.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Kayode Babayomi, the AAC chairman in Oyo State, serving as an election observer. We will still be coming back to Mr. Mark. I think he was making some very important observation, but I want us to quickly speak with Okiki Adeniran, and I want us to look at the angle of local governance versus national expectation. Now, before this election, Adeleke was sitting in on a conversation where he was asked what he has done regarding infrastructure beyond his own region. And he said that was an unfair question because if you come to his areas, he's done a lot with infrastructure. And, rightfully so, we've seen some of the things that he has done. And casting our mind back to the kidnappings in Osun State, we saw something similar where the governor seemed limited in his capacity as the governor, and then he had to depend on federal resources, federal instructions. And even after the kidnappers released the abductees, he said something about making a probe into it because he wanted to know, so it feels like there is a bit of friction between where the local or state powers stop and where the federal expectations begin. But the people cannot differentiate that. The people just want to see better governance. For example, if you're saying fuel prices is increasing, you cannot blame the state government for that, even though they have their part to play. So how does that now play in, the elections and the governance on a state level?
Well, so I think what we should look at it from is the part that you mentioned, that you cannot blame the local or the state government for what the federal is supposed to do. Now, I'll say that for the government, for the state government and the federal government, they have different things to be done in the states. Now, for the states, you have some state roads, you have federal roads. For some states, they decide to, at times, approach the federal to, maybe redo the road and, construct the road and make it better. Whereas maybe the federal would then probably pay them back for that.
Which they hardly ever do.
Yeah, most times they don't do that. So I'll say that for Osun State in particular, yes, we've seen a lot of things that he has done. There are allegations that he did so many things around his area.
His own region.
His own region, like what Professor just said now. I'm also from Ire, and I still visited home like a week or 2 weeks ago, and I found out that the road that even leads to the town, very bad shape. And that's why I want to also agree with what he said. Apart from that, I know that basically, talking about payment of salaries and other things, very good one. He did very good around that area. But for infrastructures and other things, I believe that there could have been more, which maybe is seeking re-election, right? There's been a lot of, capital projects. He had said he constructed 350 roads, right? And that based on that, people should also look at that. But I feel that the way it should have been that let this thing spread across the state, right? In such a way that everyone enjoys whatever is happening that we are doing in the state. Now, if you want to match it with what the federal government, just like you asked, for the federal, I believe that most times the federal government seems to step back. There is no meeting of minds between the state government and the federal government most times, and it happens when the particular state is in opposition. It didn't just start today. It started when even the president was governor of Lagos State, and then we had PDP, it was AD and PDP, where President Tinubu at that particular time wanted to create more local governments, and then there were issues, and in fact allocations were not being paid and stuff, right? So I believe that it's something that has been on for a long time, and the way to deal with all these things is, like I always say, if our governments are people-centered, most of these things will not happen. It won't be a power tussle of, I want to show you that I have the federal mind, you are just a state governor. Now, you mentioned Oyo State. Oyo State at that particular time, the governor couldn't do so much because, number one, he's the chief security officer of the state, but he cannot control even the police. He can't control the army. The only person that can give the authorization for something to be done is the federal. So as it is, even in Osun State right now, you'll be amazed that Governor Adeleke at the time had said, because of the issues and the fights happening in Osun State, the NURTW is going to suspend them. And they came out to say, no, you cannot. And, that's actually very, for a chief security officer of a state to be saying that, okay, because of security issues in my state, I want this to happen. And, and that speaks to some other things, we have, at the federal, in such a way that, even the president of that particular association is also, has an affiliation with a particular party, So you can be very sure that when these things, when they play out as if, it's just the normal governmental stuff. But no, it's partisan, where a party feels that I'm going to, I have the federal might, I have the way I can control your state, even from the outside. You are just governor. You can't do so much. You're handicapped in that sense. So let me just, bring everything together. Now, Adenike is in Osun State trying to ensure that, he wins the election. There's been reports of police, in fact, I just read that police, some talked dressed like policemen and were shooting around, in the Laorogun, right? That's, basically, if sincerely we have this, the governor has the right or has the authority to control that. That probably may be to have been a controlled, it can probably a controlled space where you can, probably put a stop to some of these things. You notice that over time, immediately something happens. The governor most times, probably go on TV and say, this and this and this and this, and I think that's the only power that he can, just to say it out so that everybody can
condemn.
Yeah, and condemn, and
that's
everybody
the national language. We condemn.
You condemn, So right now, I feel that maybe by the time we have state police, maybe things will be better off. But at this point, at this present time, the state is at least in a way limited when it comes to security. When it comes to even infrastructure, you can only do what is within your own ambit. Yeah. When it comes to federal, you want to, construct the federal road, you probably need to get an approval. And even if you construct it, like you said, probably you're not going to get your refund for that.
And sometimes the people don't know that. They just see that something's not
working. They just say, the road is bad, the government is not doing anything, whereas the person you should even talk about. And that's, this even reminds me that we have senators, federal senators. What are they doing there? The thing about we Nigerians, and I'm saying we Nigerians because, we try to focus on, I know we have leaders, but we don't try to ask questions to even our representatives. We focus on, our president, the fuel is this, the road is bad. What is the senator of the Central District doing? The rep, we voted for them. What are they doing? But we would rather go to the governor and say, this particular thing is not being done. What is not even within their own purview,
My next question is to you, Professor Adebiyi. I'm hoping you're still here with us. It has to do with the power of incumbency. Now, if you look at Nigeria's political space, most of the time it's expected that an incumbent governor would actually will have the advantage of incumbency, and that would also help him get re-elected. But if you look at the history of Osun State, it looks like it's a little bit different, because ever since we moved into democratic rule in 1999, only Rauf Aregbesola has been re-elected as the governor. What does this tell us about the political sphere in Osun State, and what does that also say as regards this particular election? But before I come to you, Professor Adebiyi, I've just been informed that we have our correspondent Mercy, who's on standby. Mercy, good afternoon to you, and can you tell us exactly what's happening at your end?
Mrs. Afolabi, Abiola Kayode Afolabi with me from KDI. Yes, of course we would be summarizing this up, of course. What they've spoken about today mainly is about the percentage, or rather the preliminary overview of what has happened for today's polling units. The arrival percent they gave was 56.1% of polling units reported officials' arrival, that is early on time, and while 43% reported late arrival. Then the election materials, 98.9% said materials were intact. Then the BVAS, 84.7%. But then let's talk about electoral violence. I'm sure she would be speaking more about that. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon.
From your observation so far, how is the turnout, both from INEC, security operatives, basically major stakeholders in this election?
Well, I think that they've done well from a preliminary observation. INEC started early. For most places where we went, we found INEC already brought out their materials, and they were ready, for the elections. And most of the spaces where we went, we also realized that the election started on time. While there were hiccups with the BVAS, but it's still very minute. From our data, it's less than 2%, where we had cases where they had problems, and where they had problems with their BVAS, they were having people who had the technical expertise to respond to it immediately. So we saw in situations where there are delays, the delays were not more than 2 minutes, and they had people who had come to either replace, the BVAS. So by and large, and the security agents were also there in full. There were probably more. So the voters were actually probably bombarded by security agencies, but maybe it's also because of the reports from Osun State generally. For example, our report had shown about 111, violence-related issues. About 49 of those were fatalities where people died, and so we had others which were not fatalities. So that was enough a reason, because that means that the election was on the thread. That could have been the justification for the reason why we had that huge number of deployments of both police and civil defense. We even saw immigration, and others. But almost in all the polling units that we went, they had full security force with it, and of course there were also militaries, on the road.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, ma'am. My final question will be about vote buying. We've seen videos making rounds about, it's a funny one, people catching people trying to buy votes, and they cut them, collected the money. What is your general observation about this?
Well, it's been a problem in the last 10 or 15 years for Nigeria elections. So it is something that we really need to find a way of addressing. And I think that it's the impunity that goes with it. Where people, are found found trading their votes, and nothing is done in that regard. So there is a possibility that will continue to happen. We saw ICPC, which is also a development, and my point is that the presence of ICPC is supposed to address that. But unlike the way we found the police and others everywhere, I think we only saw ICPC in 1 or 2 places, part of the place that we monitored. So maybe there's a need for ICPC and others to focus more, on ensuring that we address the issue of vote trading. And there are new strategies. So we see some people were not exactly at the polling unit. There were some few meters away and all of that. So that to a large extent shows that they are coming with new ideas. You won't see the money with them. You see them carrying bags. You see them using their phones, transferring and all of that. So, but we need to address this.
Thank you very much, ma'am. All right. I would like to give the accurate percentage KDI has given. They've recorded 3 violence-related reports in Ife East, Modakeke Ward 3, and Ejigbo Local Government Area Ward 4, Unit 13, where political thugs reportedly invaded polling areas and they chased voters away. Of course, videos, have been making round. Then in Ife East, police officers were also allegedly reported to have invaded a rally and fired tear gas, disrupting the distribution of election materials. Well, this is where we are for now. We'll be heading out in Osogbo to see more polling units. Over to you in the studio.
Mercy Babajide there, by the way, who gallantly stood up to a bully earlier today. Mercy, well done. We're proud of you, and please do also keep staying safe. Well, I think we were trying to find out, ask a very pivotal question. Chiwete.
Yes, I'd asked Professor Adebiyi the question of the power of incumbency. Now, we know that in Nigerian political space, that's supposed to be an advantage, but when it comes to Osun State, that has not been the case. I mean, since 1999, we've only had 1 governor get re-elected. So I'm asking Professor Adebiyi, do you think that, of course, looking at that history that I've just brought to your attention, do you think this would be in any way favor the outcome of today's election?
So I will push back a little bit on that hypothesis. And before that, I really want to apologize on the good people of Osun State regarding the harassment of one of your crew members. That is not who we are in Osun State, unfortunately. The politicians have made us to look really terrible. And this is one of the things that folks like me are seeking to address when we eventually join the political ecosystem, contesting election. So back to your question. So let's unbundle this. The reason Oyinlola was elected to replace Babakande was because of the arrogance of Alliance for Democracy. And Babakande didn't really do well attending to matters affecting his civil servant. He was quite principled as a governor, but being principled as a governor came at a cost. There was a trade-off, and the trade-off back in the days was the well-being of the people. And I remember during that election, because I was actively involved, my parents were heavily political, and we actually came from the Afolabi political family, the late Sunday Afolabi political family. And so people decided to punish Babakande because of that. That was a major reason when Oyinlola came on board. And when Oyinlola came on board, there was a huge machinery put in place by Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. I contributed to the making of that machinery. I played my role and a good number, and it was a grassroots-oriented machinery. My parents, our family was divided. My parent was with Chief Olagunsoye Oyinlola by virtue of the fact that my father was a military man, and so the military tradition was part of the way he treated his loyalty, and he felt that the military are much more disciplined compared to the politicians. So he went with Olagunsoye Oyinlola. Myself, I went with Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. And it was kind of interesting, because what Rauf Aregbesola did was to focus on the power of the grassroots. And Oyinlola focused on the power of incumbency and the federal might to win the election. And because Osun has always been a traditionally oriented political landscape, it was easy for Aregbesola to win. When you look at the likes of Kusamotu, when you look at the likes of Oladosu, traditionally, these were people that whenever they move in a certain direction, the vote goes in that direction. So Adebayo understood this. He did a lot of work, and he also tapped into the religious community, because religion is a big part of the electoral process in Osun State. So at the end of the day, we knew before we actually went into the polls that Rauf Aregbesola was going to win that election. And he did what he won the elections. And he stayed there for 8 years. That wasn't a very difficult thing because he was able to play the politics. He embarked on ambitious infrastructural development, and I have concerns with that. And that's one of the things I think we need to be having a second look at in Nigeria. The fact that governors are investing in infrastructural development does not mean that it's going to lead to development. It is not a given, and we know this globally. And if you have not intentionally planned your infrastructural development in a way that the gains will accrue to the people, it may just be like you have bridges there and nothing is going to change in the material economic condition of the people. There are things that needs to be done right for infrastructure to support development. It has never been the case in most states in Nigeria. And that is why when you look at infrastructure development in most states in Nigeria, they are not adding up, helping to enhance the living condition of the people on the ground. Why? Infrastructural development for the purposes of making money. So Rauf Aregbesola failed in that area. And people started looking at, we spend this huge amount of money in infrastructural development, and it's not been able to reflect on the well-being of the people. And Rauf Aregbesola is a politician, but when it comes to managing development, it's not one of his strengths. So there was that disconnect with the people, and there was also a problem within the political party itself. My friend, Kole Rashid Adegoke, actually was a lawyer of the party. He won some of their cases for them, and he were even yet to pay him money. He was contesting to replace Rauf Aregbesola within the APC infrastructure. And Rauf told him, we never had this conversation, and so Rauf also wanted somebody. But the leader of their political party, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, wanted somebody else. He wanted his younger brother, Alafra Boyega. So there was a war within the APC. And that war led to fractions. Elijah Adeoti went his own way. Several other people went their own way. And these were really grassroots mobilizers. And it was those people that actually mobilized for the other man, because Adebayo was elected, but despite his election, he was not able to unite their political party. So there were all forms of division within the APC. So, and Governor Jackson actually took advantage of this. And with the support of Aregbesola's camp, he was able to win that election. So it was not because Osun decided against incumbency. It was because there was an insurrection within the APC. And the outcome of the election you saw was that insurrection. And there was another thing. The management of the death of Governor Senator Isiaka Adelite. Osun State people felt it was not well managed. And then there was a time Mr. President, current president, went to campaign in Osun State. And he made some very, very, terrible statement at the Palace of Ataja of Mosugu. Saying that, how much is the money of Osun State? He was bringing people, and people felt that's like an invasion. That's an imperial invasion of the state. And the people of Osun State, they are very, very mindful of the utterances of people, because this is a traditional state. And they still hold on to their traditional culture, and they felt there was a need to punish the president. That also fell into the reason. But this time around, to just close it out, honestly, Governor Adeleke is doing all his best to use the power of incumbency. And I can tell you that they are using the power of incumbency massively. So whoever is saying that they are not using the power of incumbency, you may not actually know what is happening. I know a lot, the governance mechanism currently in Osun State. They are using it, and you can see that reflect in the media.
Okay, Professor Jelili Adebiyi, thank you so much for your inputs as well. We also have with us Dairo Olayinka, the State Secretary of the Accord Party, and would like to speak to him real quick regarding this elections. Mr. Dairo Olayinka, very quickly, I want to ask a very basic but still integral question, because we have established time and time again that this is a democracy regardless of how many parties are involved in the election. What do you think the people want with regards to leadership, accountability, and governance?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. We are talking about this Osun State election.
Yes, please.
What people want is part of what you just said now. Good leadership, which we don't even have in this country. We've been having leadership problem in the country. So we believe that with the election they are conducting today in Osun State, and we can see that some people actually wanted to force themselves to be elected. But unfortunately, Osun people knows what they want. These people are not popular. We know the people that are popular in that state, the party that is popular, the individual that is popular, which is the incumbent Governor Adeleke. So we believe that voting him in, he knows what he wants. He knows what he can do, and the people of Osun, they have trust and belief in him. He has been doing it. I was in Osun recently, maybe a few days ago. We went round. I saw what he has been able to do for his people. And for this to continue, that is what he is doing today. I was so surprised. Despite the intimidation people of Osun State have been seeing, they still troop out en masse. I saw them on social media, but despite that, we still notice that there are problems in some places, which we believe that it is still part of this opposition, which they don't even want people to come out. They have come up with their intimidation. So what is important is the good leadership. When you have good leadership, your leaders will know that, oh, these are the things I can do for my people to make sure that they have good living. You understand? So that's what I can say about that.
All right, at this point, I'd like to say thank you to our guests, those who have been having conversations with us since we started at about 1 o'clock. We'll start first off with our guest in the studio, Mr. Okiki Adeniran. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We also had Professor Jelili Adebiyi, who joined us all the way from Michigan, United States, and also our guest in Abuja studio, Mr. Mark Adebayo. Thank you so much for joining us on Osun Decides.
And of course, we had join us Mr. Aria Rufus, who spoke to us about voter education, as he's the head of Department for Voter Education and Publicity in Osun State. And we had Mr. Kayode Babayomi, the AAC chairman in Oyo State, who has been serving as an election observer as well. It's been a very robust conversation here. We've taken a look at democracy. We've taken a look at the election practices itself, especially BVAS and the functionality of it. And we've tried to compare Osun elections, as this is the last elections, regardless of the fact that it's off cycle, that will determine how the 2027 general elections on a national stage or national level will go. And we have seen some things that need to be addressed. If not, we will just be going round in cycles. And we really, really appreciate our guests for doing justice to that conversation.
Now that's a wrap on, of course, our second segment, where we've heard, of course, critical insights from election observers, stakeholders on ground, as well as international perspectives on Osun governorship election. I am Chiwete Onyema.
And I'm Blessings Mosugu. From the polling units to the data room, the story of Osun Decides 2026 continues to unfold, and you will have to stay with us as we bring you more live reports, analysis, updates as the collation process begins. This is Osun Decides 2026, and the world is watching. Thank you.